Hey everybody, welcome to a video on building the motors for the V3 version of the robot. This is for, so V2 so far up until this point has been pretty much the same. Hole locations are all about the same. The only difference really has been for the V3, I've done this with the quad blocks on here, whereas the V2 uses two dual blocks. So again, this is for a V3 version of the robot if you have those thin, skinny little wheels. All right, I am going to open this up in here. Let's see. So I'm going to do this a little bit out of order. I'm going to do, just to keep this in line in the OneNote, I'm going to do step 3, and I'll come back for step 2 later. Step 3, doing the motors for the V3 is a little bit more involved than it is for the V2. So it's a little more challenging to do. I know from doing this, let's see, I need to have 3 things on here. I'm going to have the motor, I'm going to have this little pattern spacer, and I'm going to have the quad block. I'm going to put these 3 pieces together first, and then I'm going to add on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces after that. So this might even end up being like a motor part A, part B kind of thing. But let's see if I can do this in one video. Let's see. So I need 3 things to begin with. I need the pattern spacer, motor, and quad block. I want to try and cut out some of this as much as I can, but I do want to show you how to properly get the right motor in here because I often see this done incorrectly or just producing some problems later. So let's hit insert. I'm always going to go home. FTC parts robotics, robotics parts users, whatever. Go into GoBuilda, and then I'm going to search directly from there, and I should be able to get this motor. I'm going to select one of the ones that are not in progress. I don't think it really matters, but I am going to choose the ones that are not in progress just for, I don't know, so I don't get some weird blue marks in my thing. If I've selected the right one, there should be nothing in Part Studios. It should all be in assemblies. If I click this, I can enter in a motor. I'm going to click check to make sure I insert it correctly. If I look at this, what I should be able to see in here, yes, there's new versions. I'm just not even going to worry about that at all. In here, I should be able to look and find like a bunch of mate features. These are how the motor is assembled, and it lets me know that all these pieces are kind of positioned relative to one another in space, so I don't have to worry about like moving these things around or them, losing their place or acting like they're a whole bunch of parts. It's one piece all put together. All right, next up, I'm going to add in the pattern spacer. Insert home pattern spacer. Again, as we're doing this, yes, I am running a video on how to do this, but also you should be looking through the instructions. Do not just have my video open because that's only really telling maybe half the story. You can try and follow along with me, but you'll miss a lot of detail not having this thing open, especially not being able to copy in the parts, and that can really put you behind. Let's see, we are going to attach, there are 2 different type miter gears that we're going to attach onto our different parts of our kind of motor assembly. There's one that's a 6mm. This says Rex bore, but actually should be D shaft. If we look at our motor, it has this kind of little D shaft, looks like a D from the side, D shaft. So our miter gears are going to attach onto here. We need the 6mm. This shouldn't say Rex bore, it should say D shaft miter gear. So that's just a typo, but this SKU is correct. So I go into here and grab this. I should be able to go insert. Again, I'm going to go home, FTC. I think students sometimes mess up getting the right one or not sure. Is it the 6 or the 8? Yeah, it is because there's a bit of a typo on there. Should be the 6mm one, but it should say D-bore. And I'm going to grab this piece and I'm going to pop that in there too. I guess I have everything in there now. All right, so I'm just going to write into assembly. I want to try and put these pieces together. All right, so I've had some headaches trying to get this part onto this motor. Actually, second time at least trying to do this video. Trying to get it right and trying to get it in place. Oh, I made the same mistake this time too. I have a pattern spacer here. I should actually have the other piece that I need to have. I do need to have a miter gear, but not yet. I need to get the quad block. The miter gear is actually going to come quite a bit later. So let me go up and grab my quad block. I'm going to go into here. I'm going to grab the quad block from this, and we're going to go into insert. We're going to go to home. I'm even going to GoBuilda, just make sure. And then I'm going to grab one of these quad blocks and I'm going to put it in space here. Let's see. So a couple things I need to get this pattern spacer on there, and then I need to get the quad block. I'm going to line this up. I think for this one, I've had good success. It really just depends on the geometry of some of these things. I've had really good success, I think, with the pattern spacer. No reason why I would do this other than I've just done it a bunch of times, so I know the right way. But if I select this hole on here, the screw threaded hole on here, and I put it onto the screw threaded hole on the motor, it typically works. Let's see if it's going to work for me today. Select that. should see these all lining up just right. Now, if you're a real close observer, you might see that this is actually a bad idea because I'm passing a threaded part of the spacer onto a threaded part of the motor. Thread to thread is never a good idea, so that's always that's a bit of an issue. This way, I need to attach this quad block on here. Oh, I need to actually do this in a different angle like that. I think about this, if you look at it like a little table, it's going to have the legs are going to be pointing towards the motor. Where am I at? Did I pass by it? Yeah, 3. The legs are going to be pointing towards the table. All right, as we mount this in here, let's grab, oh, so this one I've had a lot of issues with. I have just found from experience that doing the mate on the inside of this circle and the inside of this circle leads to the best results. Again, that's some of that kind of problem solving in here. I found just from experience that that thing works the best. All right, keep going. We got about 6 minutes in. Okay, so we have to add these other 5 parts. Let me just import those parts. Oh, there's gonna be a couple parts that are gonna be a little bit weird to import. Yeah, the 6mm ID thrust bearing. I'm gonna hole reducer, ID spacer, and I've already did the miter gear. Already done the miter gear. Those should all be easy, but the thrust bearing is gonna be a little bit different. So let me go up to here and let me grab the correct thrust bearing. So we're gonna go into here. Let's grab the 6mm ID inner diameter thrust bearing. We're gonna grab this piece. We're gonna copy. I'm going to go into insert. I'm going to go into home, this, go build a. I need to have this thrust bearing. Now, sometimes we get some weird things popping up here, especially on the 8mm. This is what I'm seeing. You might be seeing something different. Maybe the 8mm pops up with more weird stuff. But I'm just going to select this V10 thing in here. Don't want the parts. I do want the assembly because there's a lot of different pieces in here. There's the actual washers on the outside, and then there's the thrust, the actual bearing holder on the inside. Which is kind of represented here. There's a bunch of these little parts in here, but we don't really want to deal with that. Over here, configuration. We want, actually, this is I've had students describe this as a sandwich. There's the bread, and then the stuff inside. We want an open face sandwich. We only want one washer, one thing on the outside, and then the one bearings in the middle. So if I do one side on here and then I select this, I can pull that into here. And we should get the right piece. I'm hit check on that. Let's see, what else do I need to do? I'm gonna pause for a second. I'll pull in the last 2. I think we need a hole reducer and we need that spacer. Oh, just I'm having this issue myself on the spacer. We are gonna use this spacer, although in real life it might depend a little bit on what kit you got, but I think this is gonna be easier for us to build. I might reference that as we get into there's like 3A and 3B for these steps. In the actual build guide, there's part 3A, step 3A, or step 3B. Let me talk about that in just a minute. But I'm going to put this part in here like normal. All right, yeah, so going back into this, 3A and 3B. Down here, there's like 3A, 3B. Which one you build depends a little bit on like what does your miter gear look like? Does it have a little indentation or not? For us, we're not going to worry about this. I think we're inserting this miter gear. In real life, it would matter as far as getting everything spacing just right, and it actually really matters in real life, but for this, we're not going to worry about it too much. Anyways, we got all these parts together. I'm going to get my miter. I'm going to get my little hole reducer. Oh, that's my washer. I'm going to get my hole reducer in here. I just want to look for like what 2 things are going to be touching when I put these 2 things together. For me, I know that the inside of this little hole reducer, if we look at our instructions, let's see where our instructions at. That's step 2. In here, the way the hole reducer is going to work is it's going to kind of fit into this hole and reduce its size. And I know they're going to fit like this. There's a little ledge. Maybe it's easier to see. We want this little piece to fit right into here. And the 2 parts that I want to have line up, I think is going to be these 2 pieces. Oh, did I not fasten the other one? I want that to fasten to wrong piece again. To like this. Let's see, does that look approximately right? I think we need to flip the axis. Yeah, it should be nice and flush on there, so that looks good. Hit solve, and we should get that hole reducer on there. Perfect. All right, so we're getting here. Let's see, next piece we need to add on. I think we're going to add on the thrust bearing next. All right, thrust bearing can be a little bit tricky. Let's see, where's our thrust bearing? It's this whole piece here. All right, let me experiment a little bit. I'll come back to you. I'm going to do a little bit of experimenting, like, yeah, and I'll find the right answer for you. If you want to do this on your own, you'll probably have to just do a little bit of problem solving yourself. So, actually, you know, I'm gonna let the camera roll. You can tap ahead if you want to find the answer. You can go to when I actually get this assembled. But I do want to show you like my thought process on how I want to assemble this and how I want to find the right mate that's going to work. And it's kind of helpful to know the different options we have in here. So let's see. One thing that I want to do, I'm going to use this frequently as I go forward. I want to do a cylindrical mate. And basically what a cylindrical mate is going to do, again, we're thinking about like how are these two parts aligned in space. A cylindrical mate basically says like these two cylinders go together. Like if we want a rotating piece to fit around an axle, we want to use a cylindrical mate. So let me just show you what that's going to look like in action, and then maybe it'll make more sense. I'm going to choose this inside part here, and then I'm going to choose this cylinder here. And if I hit solve, those pieces will move together. And you can see how like they have formed like kind of the shaft has formed around it's touching the bearing there. So if we hit solve here, great. We got everything in there just right. Now, okay, so here's the thing with a cylinder mate is you can see the kind of directions. The arrows on here are showing like what directions it can still move in. So we can still rotate. We can still move it front and back, but we can't move it left and right. The motor will move with it. We can't. So if I grab this thing, I can pull it away. That's fine because it's still kind of in line with the cylinder. But if I try and move it up, the whole motor's going to move with it because those are kind of locked in place. I can rotate this around, although I guess you can't really see it. But they're going to stay, these are going to stay lined up. So if we look down this thing, we're going to be right lined up in there. All right, now here's my experimental part. I knew that part would work. What I really need to do is get this little circle, one of these little bearings, touching, I think, onto this plate. So there might be a couple options to work with here. What I want to do is grab I'm going to try this tangent mate. I've had some success with this, but we're going to try and grab that circle, and I'm going to grab this face, and I should make them, oh, look at that, perfect. It's going to be tangent. Tangent means, like when we're talking about a circle and a line, it means that the line is touching the circle in only one spot. So that's what we're doing right here. The ball of this thing is touching the circle in only one spot. And then because it's also, these two mates are working together, the cylindrical mate and the tangent mate are working together to kind of limit this thing to being on the shaft, touching this hole reducer. So I'm going to hit check on that, and those two things should be locked in place together. I wonder if I might be able to rotate this thing around in a circle. I don't want to mess with this too much, but just for time-wise. Yeah. Let's see, it shouldn't be able to move anymore. I shouldn't be able to grab this thing. Unlike before, I shouldn't be able to grab this thing and move it off because these things have to stay. The tangent constraint is saying these things have to be touching. All right, almost there. We got couple more pieces to put on here. I'm going to try and do the same thing. I think anytime I'm trying to put something onto a cylinder, I think a cylindrical mate makes a lot of sense. So we're going to take that piece, and I'm going to take this, and I'm going to mount them together. All right, now one of the problems here is like this looks like this is good, but it's actually not. They're not actually touching. What I'd like to do on this is I think I'm going to do a fasten mate, and I'm going to select the inside of this. Should be touching the inside of the circle. If I do that, boom, those two are fixed. Last thing I have to do is I have to get this thing locked in place. So let's hit escape. I'm going to drag this forward. And I need to get a couple more things on here. I need to get this thing. I think on this one, I'm going to do a cylindrical mate again. I think that's just, seems like that's a pretty good idea to get things at least, because I know for sure this piece, this cylinder has to go onto the shaft, right? Yeah, you see it's not in a great spot because it's way wedged up on the quad block, which is not good. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to say, I think the same thing here. I'm going to say kind of a similar, actually I'm even going to pull this thing way off so I have some freedom to do, wrong thing. I'm going to grab this thing, I'm going to drag it away. Oh my God, 14 minutes, sorry about that. I should have made this 2 videos. I'm going to grab this, I'm going to fasten the inside of this thing. I'm going to fasten that part to this thing over here. Right, those are going to match. I should be able to hit. Did I fasten? Oh, I don't know what happened there. It's okay. And another fasten at the same time. I want this piece to fasten. I didn't even fasten. Oh my goodness. Well, I guess I can always just skip to the end, but I'm going to get this done. Got that. Fastened to this. We're going to say solve. We're going to hit check. Great. And we have one full motor assembly. So before we go, I'm going to have to copy a bunch of these. So I want to go into here. I want to collect all of these pieces and put them into a single structure. So let's get this down here. Let's see, I have my motor. What else do I have? I have this piece, this piece, this piece. Anything else? That one too. Is that a part of that? What is this? Hole reducer, spacer. Yeah, all of this stuff needs to be part of assembly, including the motor. So it's going to be an assembly within an assembly. We're going to add that. We're going to say this is like a, I want to rename this. I'm going to call this like a motor. I guess I'm just going to call it motor assembly because I'm going to have to make a couple of these. I'm going to hit save on that. All right. Okay, I guess maybe the last thing, I know that I said that was the last thing. I think it makes a lot of sense here to, let me just copy this. You want to paste, paste, paste. I need to put these in. I need to put these in the actual in the shafts in the channels. So let's go into here, see where they're going to get mounted in here. I'm just going to do one on video, and then I'll do the rest off camera. But it looks like it's 1, 2, 3 plus 1. So yeah, this left. Hopefully at this point you know this, the U channel and the quad block fit right there. 1, 2, 3 plus 1. All right. I'm gonna stop the video now, just so we don't have to watch this forever, and I'll move on.